What is going on, everybody? Kevin Calhoun here. Welcome to the Calhoun Show. If you're new, welcome aboard. Very, very big week on the show this week. I have too much stuff to talk about, basically, is what's happening here. So I sat down to do my show prep, as I always do, and I'm thinking, all right, kind of a quiet week, a couple of big stories, one obvious huge one in the NFL that leads everything. And then I started going through all the different things going on in the sporting world this weekend. There's a lot of stuff. So we have a really fun show, including a little bit of a argument for and against on a follow-up topic from the show in past weeks with the U.S. women's hockey team versus USA Hockey trying to get better pay for their players and better accommodations. That happened. The deal was struck, and we have two of our prominent members of the show community on diametrically opposed sides of this. Sarah, who obviously contributes to the show all the time, comes down on a little bit more of a pro-USA soccer side of this. We can say I expect something from her at some point during the show here. She told me she was going to send in a kind of a bullet point list of items to do with USA Hockey versus the U.S. women's hockey team. And then my guy when it comes to college hockey, Grant Salzano from BC Interruption. Reminder, they have their bracket challenge coming up, so go to BC Interruption's website or Facebook if you want to be a part of that. Grant is very pro USA Hockey. He wrote an article for BC Interruption. We will link to it from the Calhoun Show's Twitter page on Thursday when the show is up. And we have a lot of stuff. And my goal is to hopefully have a bit of a super show next week. So Stephanie, my sister, is going to be in town, in studio with me here on the show next week. And she knows personally both members of this little argument in the Calhoun Show world between Sarah and Grant. They're not arguing with each other. They just have opposing views. I would like them to argue with each other, or at least have a good discussion on the show. I think it would be really fun. So if Grant and Sarah are open to it, and we will obviously hear back from them on Twitter, if you guys are open to it, we can do a little phone in with you guys next week, and we can really dive into this, because this has kind of become a hot button topic for the show on Facebook and Twitter. People seem to be really into this, and I can understand why. It's a very important thing, and I'm going to talk more about it as the show goes on tonight. But as we always do, we got to get the music in, and then we'll dive into the Las Vegas Raiders. All sorts of stuff coming up. This is the Calhoun Show. Let's go. As always, you can follow the show on Twitter at Calhoun Show and email the show, calhounshow@gmail.com. Like the show on Facebook and subscribe to the YouTube channel where all the episodes go up in their entirety every week. The episodes are not only available there, though. Come on now, iTunes, Stitcher, and SoundCloud. If you're feeling so kind to leave us a nice little 5-star rating and a nice review on iTunes, it helps us push the show to more people, and it helps us grow a little bit more. We have a voicemail line that's open all the time. 860-740-2119 is the number to do that. And if you want to tweet at me, it is at the aptly named Andrew Shucked Inspired at Shut Up Calhoun. So we have a lot of stuff to do, and we start, I guess, not quite in Oakland, but on our way out. So the Oakland Raiders are, again, going to no longer be the Oakland Raiders. But it's not going to be for a minute, because they're going to Vegas. This is the giant story in the NFL, a third team in the last 2 years that is picking up and moving out. Once again, for the third time in those three instances, the state of California is again involved, as you had the Rams going to L.A., San Diego losing a team to L.A., and then Oakland loses a team to Vegas. Now, with the Vegas Raider idea, it makes a lot of sense. And it makes a lot of sense from the business perspective. And I'm going to start with Mark Davis in this, because I think where the disconnect is for people that are pro and against this move, the disconnect seems to be with the motive. Now, if you read enough, you kind of have no choice but to think, okay, Oakland and the state of California were not interested in paying for a stadium. They did not give any ground back, and the Raiders made a cost-effective decision and a good business decision. That's where I land on this. And I don't think Oakland should be faulted for that, and I don't think the Raiders should be faulted for leaving. That's the whole point of this. The whole point of having an open market and a free market to move your product if you don't like what is being provided to you. And as the state of California and as the city of Oakland, where does your money need to be funneled right now? Does it need to be funneled into a football stadium, or does it need to be funneled into education? Does it need to be funneled into any other number of really actually important things? And they made that decision. And more times now, we are seeing places and communities make that choice to push the chips to the middle and say, fuck you, build a stadium. And if you don't, then you can go. And that's fine. But we're not going to, we're going to be upset, but we're not going to bend and, spend upwards of $500 to $900 to $1 million to $1 billion on a stadium. And more often than not, the number builds up to that and then beyond it. So it makes sense. And then Mark Davis's statement about the move. I thought this was interesting. So he said, my father always said the greatness of the Raiders is in its future, and the opportunity to build a world-class stadium in the entertainment capital of the world is a significant step toward achieving that greatness. I would like to thank Commissioner Goodell, the National Football League, and my 31 partners. I'd also like to thank Governor Brian Sandoval and the Nevada legislature for their commitment. Finally, I would like to thank Sheldon Adelson for his vision and leadership, without which this project never would have become a reality. The Raiders were born in Oakland, and Oakland will always be a part of our DNA. We know that some fans will be disappointed and even angry, but we hope they do not direct that frustration to the players, coaches, and staff. We plan to play at the Coliseum in 2017 and 2018 and hope to stay there as the Oakland Raiders until the new stadium opens. We would love nothing more than to bring a championship back to the Bay Area. So what that means, basically, it's a nice long statement that covers pretty much all the bases that you would want in an initial statement from an owner. But the point of that is to say, don't boo the players, and please keep showing up, keep buying tickets. Now, this is the big conversation. The Raiders are now a lame duck team. They are the Oakland Raiders until they're not the Oakland Raiders anymore. So what does that mean to a fan base that up until a year ago had been helpless for the better part of 2 decades as far as finding a winning product on the field? They have been hopeless at that. And now they find in the second round their franchise quarterback, and they find Amari Cooper, and they find Khalil Mack, and they find all of these players, and now all of those players are going to leave, and they're going to go to Las Vegas, and that's going to be Las Vegas's group of players now. So do you stay with the team? And I think that this has the ability to be one of the best sports stories that we've seen in a long time. I really do. The Raiders are the perfect team to do this. They've moved before, so the fan base is at least familiar with the concept of the team moving. And for a lot of Raider Nation, as it were, the move doesn't matter, because Raider fans are like Steeler fans, or to a lesser extent Giant fans, or to the greatest extent Cowboy fans. They're everywhere. There's a lot of them. They're all over the place. So if you're a Raider fan living in Chicago, the Raiders going from Oakland to Vegas, it doesn't really affect you, except now you get to go to Vegas once a year to see the Raiders play and do other things while you're there. So it doesn't affect everyone, but it certainly affects Oakland. So now the plea is, please keep buying tickets and keep showing up to support our team, because Vegas is going to work for the Raiders. All the casinos, and this isn't an original point by me, and people have been making it for the last 2 weeks and to a bigger extent the last 6 months, since this has become a real thing that's turned into a snowball that now has formed into a real thing that's happening. These casinos are such a major factor in this, with the suites that are going to be bought. The suites will always be sold out. That will never be an issue for this team, because they will buy suites and they will give them to high rollers and they will be auctioned off, and that will be a thing. And Vegas it makes sense. And with the Raiders, it makes sense, but I think it can turn into such an amazing sports story this year, because you finally have a Raider product that is good and one that can contend. You have the quarterback, you have the head coach, you have everything you want. You have the leader on a defense. You have all the things. Now can you put them all together and win? And just win, baby, if you want to be a little on the nose with the pun. But if the Raiders are 5-1 in early October, are we talking about Las Vegas? If the Raiders are 8-2 in, what would that be, early December, something like that, I don't know if we're talking about Vegas. I don't know if we're talking about Vegas if they have the 2 seed in the AFC or they're hosting a playoff game in round 1. I don't know if we're talking about Vegas. I think Oakland will see an opening and say, oh my God, we can grab a Super Bowl. This will be our Super Bowl. They're not the Las Vegas Raiders. They are the Oakland Raiders. That's why this is so crazy that they are announcing it so early. And it's what they had to do. They struck a deal and they're going to build a stadium, so you're going to know about it. But it's such a weird situation. And if this team is good, and up until Derek Carr's injury last year, that team was really good and was a real factor. And they can definitely be that this year. So if they keep this ship on course, and, you know, to keep the terrible boat analogies going, keep the water from spilling over the sides, because it's going to be rocky as they move. There's a Raider pun somewhere to be had in here, but if they can keep all of those things out, if they can mute all of the distractions and play well, which this team seems to be very capable of doing, this could be a great story going into the playoffs. If this is a good team, I really think so. And I don't know if they play there in 2018. I think they'll try to find some way to play somewhere else. I don't know if UNLV's very small football stadium is retrofittable in a year, but I imagine that that's something that's either being looked at or already being worked on to try to get the Raiders closer to their final destination, and more importantly, out of Oakland by next year. So I don't know. I think it's really interesting, and I think it's a golden opportunity for something that would sneak up on a lot of people, because everyone's kind of picturing this doom and gloom, and I don't know if Raider fans are going to bring that to the table. I think that they're a little bit of a different breed, and it's not to be, it's not to be understated. They've gone through this before. They've lost their team before. So I don't know, at least if you're losing your team, you're losing them to Vegas, then you get to go to Vegas to watch your team play. That's not too bad. It's not too bad. Imagine being a Oilers fan or Titans fan, then they go to Houston. Now you got to go to Houston to watch your team play. Ugh, you don't want to do that. That's Tennessee, just further over and hotter. It's not good. It's not good. All right, we have a lot of stuff to do. Let's keep going. It's Calhoun Show.
The Calhoun Show.
All right, I have just emerged. So that last segment that you heard end there a second ago ended in real life about 25 to 30 minutes ago, because I hit the pause button and picked up my phone and opened my email to see if I'd gotten anything from Sarah. And boy, did I get an email from Sarah. It is hefty. Now, I need to reposition her position, because I labeled it poorly at the beginning of this podcast, and I apologize for that. So here is the crux of Sarah's argument. It is not anti-U.S. women's hockey. It was way more in response, completely in response to the comparisons that Dan and I were talking about, as far as drawing comparisons to the U.S. women's national team for the soccer team. So she sent me a very detailed email about the pay structure of men versus women in U.S. soccer. So I can't obviously read the whole thing. It took 20 minutes to read just on my own. And if anyone is interested in this, you can tweet at us or at Sarah. We will be tweeting to and from Sarah, I'm sure, in the next day or two. So you can definitely find her through us. Because this is a fascinating thing, and I would like to talk to Sarah on the show about it, because reading through that, there's so much information there, and there's a New York Times article that she linked to as well that I read, and there's just a ton of stuff, and I want to dive into that, preferably with Sarah, with somebody that knows actually what they're talking about, because it's really a fascinating difference, and for me, one of the things that I really found to be a point I hadn't considered was the risk to the men's career, based on the fact that most of their money is club earned, playing for whatever team they actually play for, not their national team, when the women's players on the soccer side are being paid mostly for their national work. So I don't know. It's interesting. It's different, and it's an argument that's worth having. But I want to draw back toward the hockey discussion with U.S. women's hockey. So here's what they got. Roughly a rough summary of what U.S. women's hockey was able to maintain. So if you're unfamiliar with the story, very quickly, they were fighting to get a little more representation on the financial side from USA Hockey. And they were threatening to skip Worlds, which are being hosted here in the U.S., coming up actually here in the coming days. So the team was threatening to boycott if they did not get a new deal done. A new deal has been done. And here are some of the things that were listed out here. The team's annual compensation, one key issue, will vastly improve to roughly $70,000 per player. A source who has seen the contract said, toss in the newly negotiated performance bonuses USA Hockey agreed to pay the women for the first time ever, and the players could push their income tax or their income over six figures if they win the Olympics or World Championships. This is a huge win. It's a massive win for women's hockey. If you're unfamiliar with women's hockey, and it's something that I'm not totally familiar with, I have a little more knowledge than most because I have friends that are really, really into it, and I follow what they say. So I have a little knowledge. But there are competing women's hockey leagues. There are really tremendous amounts of skill and talent in the women's college hockey game. That's if you haven't sat down, give yourself, just even if you do what I do, which is over the course of a calendar year, I'll see 2 or 3, sometimes if I get into a tournament, 5 or 6 women's hockey college games a year, or men's college hockey would add on to that, double it. I enjoy it. It's not something I can. It's college basketball for me is tough because players are in and out so much. It's not the same with college hockey. It would just take such a commitment to learn a team, and I don't have that kind of time. It's my soccer problem all over again, trying to learn a whole new thing. But they're fun. The games are good, and I've been to a couple of games, and they're really it's a great time. So the fact that the women's team is going to get recognized and hopefully pushed now. Because we talked about this on the show last week. Mark's email touched on it a little bit last week. The NHL has a really, really fundamental problem doing the right thing when it comes to pushing their sport and trying to grow their sport. We've talked ad nauseum about the NBC coverage. We've talked about a whole bunch of different things as far as hockey goes. But now we've had one step in the right direction. And hey, USA women's hockey, they threw all their chips in the middle of the table. And Greg Wyshynski and Jeff Merrick were talking about this on their podcast. And Wish pointed out that this was their last play. Because if this didn't work, the Olympics are up next. And if you're not in camp for the Olympics, you don't go to the Olympics. So this was the USA women's chance to push, and they threw down, and it worked. It worked perfectly. They got what they wanted, and now they're going to keep playing. So that was one step in the right direction for hockey. And obviously that's not a NHL or a Gary Bettman decision, but it's one step in the right direction. Another step, and this is something that hasn't been brought up on this show before, but if you're a hockey fan, it's been on your radar. And if you're not a hockey fan, I'm not going to spend much time on it, but it's a really interesting thing. And I'm really, really happy that the NHL has come to their senses on this. So with obviously all the Vegas Raider talk, let's not lose sight of the fact that there are the Las Vegas Golden Knights. The NHL is in Vegas. It's an active running team that will be in the NHL next season. And as a part of getting this brand new hockey team up and running, we have an expansion draft coming here in our very near future in the NHL. Now, this is interesting. It's important. It's fun. You get to see teams protect players, teams exposing players to the expansion draft opportunity or eligibility. It's a fun little chess game that about a week and a half ago, all of a sudden, maybe we were going to lose the ability to watch that chess game unfold when rumblings were coming out of NHL head office that said, we will not be releasing the names of the players that are exposed and eligible to be drafted in the expansion draft. They were going to keep those things a secret and not let you peek behind the curtain, as it were, behind your team's decisions and motives. You know, if you're a Bruins fan, who are you going to leave exposed moving into the expansion draft? A Penguin fan, Marc-Andre Fleury, probably going to be exposed here. So these are the kind of moves that are really, really interesting and kind of means a lot to the players, for sure, to find out where they stand. And this morning or yesterday morning, it was announced that the Vegas Golden Knights will be drafting expansion players that we will know about. The list will be released on who's protected, who's eligible. And this is a win. This is a win for the NHL. I question whether or not they just said they weren't going to do it only so they could turn around and say they will. I wouldn't put that past them. It would be a good PR win. It'd be pretty smart too. Hey, we're not gonna let you guys know all that. We know you want to know, but come on now. And if you're not familiar with the NHL's inability to make good decisions when it comes to marketing their product, just do yourself a favor and go look up the history of the Cap Geek website and its popularity in the hockey community. It was a website that was designed so you can trade players and move salary and see how it worked in and out of the salary cap. And when Cap Geek went away, the NHL had the opportunity to launch their own version of that website. And Gary Bettman said, we don't think fans are interested in the contracts that the players are signing or knowing any more information than they have. So they instead elected to keep all of that information quiet. So these are the people that run the NHL, and they're really good at mucking up good ideas. But this one, maybe it was theirs, maybe it wasn't, maybe it was just reactionary and a lucky reactionary move. But it's good that they're going to release those lists, and it's good that the U.S. women's hockey team got what they were looking for. Well deserved, and hopefully it works out well for them. So, all right, we got a bunch more to do. Let's keep going. It's the Calhoun Show.
The Calhoun Show.
So, amazingly, we have gotten 23 minutes into this podcast, a sports podcast happening in late March of 2017, and we have not yet mentioned the names Russell Westbrook, James Harden, Kawhi Leonard, or LeBron James, as we are in the midst of a fascinating MVP race in the NBA. So, who is your MVP pick? Now, here are the arguments. I'm not going to really do this. I'm just going to kind of mock the arguments. So, well, Russell's doing everything, but Harden's doing all of that just a tiny bit less, but his team's winning, and Kawhi's great at defense, and LeBron's LeBron. Okay, that's where we land, right? And then here's the other nuanced NBA speak that you know what you're talking about if you say these words. Listen, Harden's gonna win the award. And then you could follow that with like any stupid vomit words that you want. Like, Harden's gonna win the award. I love watching Westbrook play, right? Or, it's Harden's gonna win the award. You can just tell that the voters are going to go that way. Like, yeah, we all kind of think that the voters are going to pick Harden. So it's cool and edgy to be the one guy or one of the million who has the balls to predict that one. Way to go. Keep it up, though. Either way, the MVP race can't be decided today. You know why? Because the NBA season isn't over yet. Right? It's pretty simple. We have a couple of weeks left. Westbrook is doing something absurd, right? We know that. He's doing something crazy. He's trying to set the triple-double record. He's doing anything and everything that he can do to help the Oklahoma City Thunder win. And James Harden is doing all of those things. He really is. He's got, 2 less rebounds per game. So that's the difference in their play. And from there, it turns into what's the difference in the standings. And the difference in the standings is Houston is in 3rd place in the West with 51 wins. Oklahoma City is in 6th place in the West with 42. So it's 9 wins difference. It's 2 rebounds difference. Whatever you want to call it, there's a difference there. But I just don't want to lose sight of what Kawhi Leonard has been doing. They're in 2nd place, just sneaky 2nd place in the West, as they always are. No one's going to talk about them. They're gonna sneak up on everybody, and that's fine. It's what keeps happening. But Kawhi Leonard has been phenomenal this year. He's been a complete shutdown player on the defensive end. He has been productive on the offensive side. He's been dynamic even on the offensive side, and he has taken himself, I thought, from a Paul George level offensive player, or maybe a Jimmy Butler level offensive player, as just kind of on that trajectory. And he has vaulted himself into something more than that. Now, is it enough to win him an MVP? Maybe, because maybe there's enough of a push on Westbrook and Harden that those split off and Kawhi sneaks in. The rest argument doesn't seem to hold water for LeBron like it does for everybody else. LeBron's not the MVP of the league. The team has sputtered late. They added players, and they haven't been great. Now, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that Cleveland isn't going to the NBA Finals from the Eastern Conference, because I still believe that they are. But we also really need to analyze the fact that Cleveland might not be as good as we thought. They've played a ton of basketball in the last 2 years. A ton of basketball. Golden State's gone through the same. And we'll see what that lineup is with KD reintroduced. We'll see what this Cavalier lineup is once we've gotten through the next, however many games are left in the season, 10, 15, whatever it is. So the MVP race isn't over yet. It's fascinating. Any chance we get to sit down and watch Russell Westbrook play, if you're not doing it, then do it. And if you have been enjoying watching Russ play and you haven't really gotten a chance to appreciate what Harden's doing as well, they're both phenomenal. They really are. Russ is actually on right now. I've got it on NBA TV up in front of me here, playing against Orlando. So, it's a fun race, but don't get too lost in it. Don't get too caught up in it, because it's a fun conversation. That's all it really is. I want to talk about the Cowboys for a couple minutes here for 2 items. Number 1, Jason Witten, 34 years old, gets a 4-year contract. And as a fan of a different NFC East team that is not the Cowboys, I'm excited to hear that. Jason Witten has been a backbreaker for me for a long time, but a 38-year-old tight end sounds like a thing I'd like to play against, especially one that's going to get paid decently well. And the way more important story in Dallas that I want to spend more time on, which is why I got the Witten thing out of the way, is Tony Romo. Tony Romo is still a Cowboy if you had, not picked up a paper or paid attention in the last few weeks, or if you just kind of put the blinders up to the NFL for a little while. First off, I don't blame you. Second off, the Raiders are in Vegas. Well, they're not yet. And thirdly, Tony Romo is still a member of the Dallas Cowboys. And now we are hearing groans and we are hearing rumors that there is a schism, a divide, a breach in the trust in the Cowboy facility. And we now have Team Dak and Team Tony. Okay, well, Team Tony is a short list. It's Tony and Tony's agent, right? And his family. Yeah, that's Team Tony. And Team Dak is anyone that wants to be a member of the Cowboys organization moving forward. Because those are the only 2 positions that there are. You are either a part of the Cowboys franchise. No one's going to speak out. Yeah, I think we should really try to keep both guys. No, nobody's going to say that, because these guys know that Tony can still play and that he should be on another roster, and Jerry Jones should have done what he said he was going to do and released him. However, capitalists of the world, I can hear you yelling, well, it's a contract and he didn't break it, so he's got... Fine, I get it. Jerry Jones is also playing the fact that he has a capable, albeit fragile, asset. And if you have an asset and you are a businessman, your goal, especially as a businessman and a general manager, is to turn assets into other assets. So the fact that he hasn't moved Romo, I don't know. Maybe the market's not there. Teams are waiting. What do they do in the draft? Does the Cutler domino fall at some point? Is Houston going to go make that happen? Cleveland has come out and said they're not trading for a pick, or quarterback. So does Garoppolo now become available to another team if they want to make the push, even though New England has been pretty steadfast in saying they're not going to do anything with him? There's a lot of pieces ready to fall. But Romo, we thought, was piece number one. Once Romo goes, then this can happen, that can happen. Cutler's waiting to see where Romo goes, and then he'll go to the next best option if it's not Denver. That might not be what we're looking at now. We might be looking at Jerry Jones is just going to wait. And until he has an opportunity to move Romo for something better than what he's been offered, if he's been offered anything, then he's not going to do anything. And in order for that market to change, other things need to happen. So I don't think Romo's that number one domino anymore. I'm interested to see what is, but it doesn't appear that that's it. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. There were rumors coming out this morning that Romo is being rumored to be the eventual replacement for Phil Simms on CBS. These are the things that always come out. It's why John Gruden's always tied to a job. Tony Dungy's always tied to a job. Tim Tebow is tied to studio jobs, or now he's playing baseball. Like, there's just rumors left and right. Some of them come true. Sometimes Rex Ryan is the perfect fit for ESPN, and then all of a sudden Rex Ryan's working for ESPN. So, these things sometimes pan out nicely, but until Romo's not on a roster, then he's not replacing Phil Simms. So these are things that don't really need to be worried about. A couple other NFL items to get to before we wrap up this particular episode of the Calhoun Show. Adrian Peterson dispelling rumors that he's seeking $8 million a year. Kind of feels like that came out of his camp in the first place, and then they didn't get $8 million a year. So now I'm looking for somewhere to help them win a championship, which I'm sure he is. I would imagine Tampa Bay is a decent landing spot. Oakland makes a lot of sense, but we're still waiting on Marshawn Lynch to see what happens with him. And then finally, and this is a sneaky one that is really, really big. Martavis Bryant, the Post-Gazette, I believe, had an article that said his reinstatement is imminent and he will be back. And if he can keep his toes clean and he can stay out of trouble, Martavis Bryant's going to be on the field for the Pittsburgh Steelers this season. That's huge. He is a very talented young player. And if you put him across from the best receiver in football, or one of the three, because I would put Julio Jones right there with Antonio Brown, and I would put my guy Beckham right behind both of them. That's huge. And Martavis Bryant might be a top 10. He really might. Once we're able to see what he can actually do, because the touchdown production was off the charts when he was able to play for the Steelers about a year and a half ago. So we'll see what Martavis Bryant can bring to the table, and if he can just keep himself out of trouble. By the way, quick couple of stories here. Number one, Roxy the three-legged dog is having a blast. She is still seeking out the 1 3-inch patch of snow in the yard whenever we let her outside. So she's doing good, and went on a hike actually earlier today. If you're in the Connecticut area, I remember going to this place when I was really, really little. And I'd like to go back when they're open, but went up to Gillette's Castle, which is right off the Connecticut River, and went for a nice little hike today, and got some fresh air. It was warm out. Washed my new car. Kind of a really the first nice day in a while up here in what has been cloudy, mopey, crappy New England. Now, you're going to be asking yourself why I have not done a lot of stuff on March Madness in this episode of the show. Now, there's a simple explanation for that, and it's because you guys already know the answer. We all enjoy March Madness, and we all know that when this show comes around during the week, it's been 4 days since the basketball games happened. They were phenomenal. We have a chance for North Carolina, South Carolina. We have chalk. We have upsets. We have a 7 seed. This has been a blast. It's been a great tournament to watch. And I'm obviously really excited, just like everybody else is, to see what happens from here out with South Carolina and Gonzaga on one side, Oregon, North Carolina on the other. What I will do, as far as this goes, is update the Calhoun Show Bracket Challenge standings. I will say that I am in 13th place, and my champion Kentucky is not looking too good at the moment. I will tell you that. We'll just do the quick top 10 here. 10th place, Chris Morgan, his eventual champion, however, Villanova, so not looking too good there. Our guy Brett Zanardi is in 9th place, however, champion Arizona, not looking too hot. Kyle McGowan in 8th place, another Villanova. Ed Brodeur in 7th. That's a Duke. Endorsement for the championship. So anybody 7th or below, it seems, is pretty much out of this. Let's go to the top 6. We have, in a tie for 5th, 2 of our favorites, Dan Condi and Kyle Gregoire. Always good to see the boys hanging out in the top 5. KG still looking pretty good with eventual champion North Carolina. He is still definitely in this thing. Dan, however, in a little bit of trouble because his eventual champion, Kansas, obviously has fallen to Oregon and has moved on. So Kansas is gone, and Dan will not be moving up anymore. In 3rd and 4th right now, we have Sean McGinley and Matty Connolly, both with Gonzaga as the eventual champion. However, bad news for Matty is that he can't gain any ground because both of those guys have one team left, and it's Gonzaga. So the 2-point advantage for McGinley over Connolly will remain. Matty guaranteed no better than 2nd. Currently in 2nd place is Kevin C. That means it's my dad. However, his eventual champion Kansas means that he can only gain a point or some points off of Gonzaga advancing into at least the final matchup. And finally, out front, but stuck out front, is Kevin Corozin, whose Final Four actually brings Oregon into the championship, where he eventually had them losing to Villanova. So some points left on the board. Kevin Corozin, Kevin Calhoun Sr., Sean McGinley, and Kyle Gregoire. Those are the 4 to watch heading into the Final Four weekend. So good luck to the 4 of you, to everybody who participated in the Calhoun Show Bracket Challenge. We really appreciate it. A reminder again, the BC Interruption Frozen 4 bracket is open on BC Interruption's website. Hoping to get Grant on to talk U.S. women's hockey next week. My sister will be in studio next week as well. It's going to be a fun show. I'm very excited about it, and for you guys, enjoy the Final Four. I have a big weekend coming up. I'm really, really amped and excited, and a lot of cool things going on. So we'll keep you guys updated, and hopefully good news coming in the future. But you guys enjoy the weekend, enjoy the basketball, and try to rationalize the Vegas Raiders for yourselves, and we'll figure it out, and we'll talk next week. Get at us on Twitter, get at us on Facebook, and have a wonderful weekend. All right, boys and girls, we'll talk to you next week. See ya.
Thank you for listening to The Calhoun Show. Join the conversation by following the show on Twitter @Calhoun Show and emailing the show at calhounshow@gmail.com. You can also find us on Facebook, and don't forget to subscribe and download for free on iTunes. Want to hear yourself on the show? Leave us a voicemail by calling 860-740-2119.